Well, hello everyone. So this is going to be a long video. I just want to start off by first thanking everyone that's actually subscribed to my channel. I never really thought this was going to be something in my life, but COVID forced me to hang out indoors, and so this is one way that I keep sane, by collecting these little diecast vehicles. So I've now collected about 600 models now, so I think I have a fair understanding of what I consider good or good value. Let's put it that way, more of a good value, because there's plenty of good models, but they're super expensive. There's plenty of inexpensive models. They're actually quite good, like this one you're looking at right now. Although technically I don't consider Hot Wheels models. I consider them more toys that look kind of like cars, because mainly the exposed axles really bother me, and then a lot of the times, you know, they don't have headlights or taillights, and they also have really cartoonish proportions in many cases. But don't get me wrong, I still collect them. I probably have about 50 of them now. So nothing against Hot Wheels, but they're not going to be in this brand ranking, because they're simply not, I guess, scale models in most cases. Alright, so I want to also explain why I am so picky. Is because I don't come from this hobby of collecting Hot Wheels. When I see these models, I think at a very small scale. So this here, these are 1/400 scale models. So Hot Wheels, 1/400 scale. That red truck is a Chevy Suburban, to give you an idea, which is probably twice as big as a Honda City. So this dump truck is the world's largest dump truck. It's called a Balaz, and this dump truck is smaller than this Honda City, and yet, you know, this guy will actually open up and has a bunch of details. If you're familiar with the Aliens movies, these are the UDL dropships from Aliens, and the little APC, which is actually based off an airport tractor. And then I like Halo, the video game, so that's the tank and the Warthog from there. So that's the kind of detail where I'm kind of used to coming from, you know, little panel lines and things of that nature. Okay, so for me, rolling and suspension are not important. I actually prefer my models to not roll because they fall off bookshelves and fall off those solar display stands. So I prefer static models because I don't run Hot Wheels tracks or anything like that. So this actually brings up a point. This will be my first challenge to everyone. I challenge you guys to run your own spreadsheet where you basically list out the things that you think are important to you, and then you break down 100% or 100 points in, you know, based on those criteria, and then you have your brands, and then you can start grading them, and then you run some totals like down here, where in my case M2 is the worst, and then resin models over here are the best. They get 90 out of 100. But I also then have this row here, personal ranking, because my personal rankings don't necessarily match the statisticals, because I just like certain things, even though they might be missing a lot of details, in particular at Kayoshima's. Okay, so another thing I want to talk about before I get into the criteria is the casting is not mentioned here. I can tell through photos and just looking at a model at a store whether or not I think that looks good enough to buy based on the shape, right? So I don't really factor that in. I wouldn't buy the model if I didn't think it looked close enough to the real thing. Okay, so now these criteria you might be familiar with if you watch my reviews. So the very first criteria you tend to look at is the paint quality. And so I'm giving this 10% of the total grade. And so paint gouges, orange peel, and then contaminants is a big one in new and old models. And then for old models, a lot of paint rash and bubbling, or also actually new TLVs also have paint rash. So that's a big concern. Over here you'll see some highlights. TLV gets a 4 because I have 26 TLVs and 11 of them have paint. Well, only 11 of them are actually perfect because I hand-picked them from a store. You know, I had to open up, like, in some cases, 6 boxes to pick out the best one. Because I see brand new TLVs with, like, weird clear coats. Like, they're, like, rough clear coats or actually, like, paint rash already. And then the other majority, so the majority of my TLV collection, which I bought brand new from, like, Hobby with Japan on eBay, or Japan Booster, sorry, Japan Booster, and I have a video on an unboxing there. Those things are brand new and they had paint problems. So that's why I'm always picking on this brand, because they're so expensive. So they have some of the worst paint for a brand new brand. Possibly the worst paint of a brand new brand after Majorette, which costs like $5, right? Alright, some highlights though are Mini GT. They generally are on top of their paint quality. There was this blue Lambo, and I emailed them of the clear coat problems, and they told me they shut that they don't use that Bangladesh factory anymore. So they're on top of their game. They really care about paint quality. And then here, obviously, resin models have the very best paint quality, because some of them, I'm pretty sure they're all actually hand sanded after they're clear coated. They don't have any orange peel. So it's quite impressive. But, you know, resins cost a lot. Okay, so the next one I look at is the graphics. You know, the badges, whether or not, and also the race liveries. You know, decals aren't good, so they only get 3 points, because decals crack off. They get old. Tampo printing is much more stable because it's literally paint. But when you get into resin models, they will actually clear coat over the decals, so they're locked in forever. So that gets a full 9 points. It's pretty rare. So some highlights again. AutoWorld actually seems to have some pretty nice graphics. I only have 4 AutoWorlds, so I'm not an expert, but I have their lowriders, and those have some nice Tampo printed graphics. But I gave them 5 instead of 6 because they're not particularly straight. A lot of them are crooked. Okay, so you get the idea, hopefully. Time Micro. I'm going to show you examples of each of these brands after this chart. Time Micro has some crazy good Tampo printing. LCD model makes the best carbon fiber I've seen. It literally looks like genuine carbon fiber that's been clear coated. So there's some sort of graphic, and somehow they're clear coating it, so it looks like a real piece of wet carbon. It's insane. And then resin models, obviously, being them, they have the best graphics as well. Okay. So then after that, we got 8 points dedicated to lights. If you just have painted lights, you get 1 point. If you have half of their lights being plastic inserts, then you get 2 points. If both ends of your car have plastic inserts, that's 5 points. And then 8 points is for extra details, where like in resins, I've seen plastic clear pieces put into a chrome surround, and then that thing is put into the model. So it's multiple piece lights. Or even like some Kyosho blisters will have like silver paint details behind the clear lens, so it looks like there's an actual light bucket, that kind of thing. Alright, so the next one I look at is wheels, and that gets 6 points total. Blocked off wheels like Yoshimas, like TLVs, they get 0. Hollow spokes, air passing between the spokes, get 3 points. And then perfect wheels are crisp, nice paint, lug nut details, all the time, fine detailing, that gets 6 points. Next thing here is the exhaust. If you have blanked off exhaust, you get 0 points. That's pretty much like Hot Wheels, what they do, right? If you have hollow exhaust, where there's a depression where it makes it look like a tube, that gets 2 points. Painted gets 3 points. Separate pieces, 4 points. And then if you get everything right, where it looks like a full-on exhaust system, that's 5 points. Okay, so brake systems. You know, if you have regular disc rotors hanging back there, that's 1 point. If you have calipers as well, that's 2 points. If those calipers are a different color, 3 points. If you have textures like cross drilling or grooves in the rotors, that's 4 points. And then perfect 5, they might actually have printing on the calipers, or they're just absolutely awesome. So, you know, I give 1 point to TLV here because the majority of my TLVs don't have any brakes at all. Only 2 of mine do, and only 1 of them actually looks good. So, and then obviously resin, they're going to have the best brakes. Alright, tires, I allow 5 points here. Proper shape. I've seen some slab-sided tires, you know, where the sidewalls just look flat. Makes no sense. You know, there's air inside there trying to bulge it out. So properly curved sidewalls, you know, 2 points. Treads, 3 points. Crispness of those treads, 4 points. I've seen a lot of treads where they look worn out and look like bars of soap, right? But some good treads have really crisp edges to them, like a brand new tire would have in real life. And then printing on top of that, like printing Goodyear, Michelin, or racing stripes, or white walls, that's a full 5 points. Alright. Mirrors. If they're just cast in blobby mirrors, that's 1 point. If they're separate pieces, that's 2 points. If they have a silver painting to look like a reflector, that's 3 points. If they actually have a reflective sticker, that's 4 points. And then 5 points is when you actually have rear view mirrors in the interior that are reflective as well, which LCD does, and resin models sometimes will as well. Okay, the interior actually gets a relatively high 8-point spread because you can have a lot of detail in the interior. If you have a plain like Hot Wheels interior that looks kind of cartoony, that's the 0. If you have your basic average detail like a Kyosho or something, but it's just all black, that's 2 points. If you have some multiple colors in there, that's 4 points. And then extra details would be like instrument clusters, computer screens, seat buckles, patterns on the carpet, door pulls, window wind downs, you know, all the little switches and stuff. If they're painted or whatever method they use, it could be or a roll cage as well on race cars. You know, that could be a full 8 points. Or sometimes they print Recaro on the seats. You get the idea. Alright, the next one here, windows. Clear windows, yeah, they should be clear, right? So you get 1 point. But I've seen some foggy windows from some of the cheap plastic cars. If you actually have open side windows, I would actually prefer that, so that's 3 points. If you have sheet windows, meaning they're not molded windows, they're literally thin sheets of plastic, like a thin piece of glass, that's 4 points. And then multi-piece windows are a thin piece of sheet plastic with a photo etched piece of metal on top of it to simulate the molding. So that happens when you get to the resin models. Okay, so bumpers. I don't want to assign too many points because, you know, modern vehicles, the bumpers are just integrated into the bodywork. So this applies more to the classic cars. So if they're molded in, you get 0. You know, like AutoWorld molds in their bumpers and just paints them silver. So they get a 0. But separate pieces like Kyosho and Konami will do, they would get 1. And then great separate piece bumpers would be like a 3. See, Konami has separate chromed bumpers, but sometimes the chrome itself is wicked away, like it's evaporated or something because they're so old. So I actually gave Konami a 1 there. But most of the Kyosho ones I see, the chrome is still there, so that's why they get a little bit higher with it too. Okay, so wiper blades. No wiper blades 0. Molded in wiper blades 1. Painted and molded, you get 2 or 3 depending on how good the wiper blades look. And then separate pieces could be 4 or 5. Those separate pieces could be plastic, or they could be photo etched metal, or even better would be a bent piece of photo etched metal. I've seen in the resin models some of the wiper blades are literally bent 90 degrees, so the blade is perpendicular to the windshield. Okay, so license plates. None, you get a 0. If you have a blank white or blank yellow, that's a 1 point. If you print something on them, that's a big jump. I like to see printing on my plates. So 4 points there. And then if you actually have a real license plate with a number and a district or province or state on it, you know, that's a full 5 points. That's as real as it gets, right? Alright, so another big spread would be 10 points for detailed parts. It's these little details that make things not look like a Hot Wheels, but more like a real car. So photo etched parts like metal grills, tow hooks, hood pins, and then antennas, mud guards, thin mud guards, racks, those little extra bits that might be glued on to a model. It's a lot of extra work, right? So naturally resins have all that, but Inno64 and Tarmac Hobby also had a lot of those parts, so they're nearing resin quality there, so it's pretty impressive. Okay, so defroster lines I don't care so much about, so there's only 3 points here. Thick defroster lines that block the interior get 0. I would actually prefer no defroster lines, so that would get 1 point. And then thin defroster lines that let you see the interior would get 3 points. Okay. So panel gaps. This is another thing I don't care a great deal about, but wide panel gaps, like Mini GTs, their earlier models have really wide panel gaps, so they get 0. But the majority here get a 2 because that's the average. And then tight panel gaps, really thin panel gaps, you're going to definitely see on resin models because resins can handle that. You know, metal mold won't last long if you have thin panel gaps. And then here's a little bit of an X factor, eBay and retail values. So a bad value would be 0, and then 5 would be a good value. So for me, M2s cost a lot of money. M2s are like $10, $12, or sometimes, yeah, around $12 where I am. So that's not a good value because they don't really put a great amount of details in there. And some good values would be Mini GT, BM Creations or Diecast Masters, Time Micro, Inno64, and LCD. But naturally resins are not a good value because they're so expensive. You'll notice here on Kyosho blisters I gave them an average because Kyosho blisters on eBay are like 10 to 15 bucks on average. But Kyosho crystal box models, they're brand new, are like 20 to 30 bucks. That's why they get a -5 because their quality isn't that much better than the blisters. And as much as I love Kyosho, those crystal box ones are not a good deal. Alright, TLV gets a 0 because they're so expensive, and yet they skimp out on so many details, and in particular the paint rash is a huge problem, so they're not a good value either. I think most people know that though. They're definitely overpriced. Now the last row here is opening panels. This is the reason why I don't collect M2, AutoWorld, and like more than half of Greenlights, because of those stupid hood gaps. Take one of those models, if you have them, put them on a table, and then start walking backwards and figure out the distance where you can't see that hood gap anymore. For me, it's about 3 feet or 1 meter. So times 64, that's 64 meters. Now I know if I go outside and I look at a car, I know I don't need to be 64 meters away before that panel gap vanishes. Right? So they're so big and so annoying for me that I'm giving them up to -5 points. Now Greenlight seems to be doing a better job these days. A lot of their models don't have opening gaps, and so they look consistently good, right? I really don't understand why AutoWorld and M2 do that sort of thing, because plenty of people are buying high-end premium brands and resin models that don't have opening panels, right? So it's just really strange that they would waste their resources on making the car look bad. Okay, so these are the statistical totals of what's going on up here, right? So yeah, M2 only gets 32 out of 100. And then a resin model has most of the detail you want, except for some reason they don't have defroster lines. I've never seen any. And then, well, they're just a horrible value. so that takes points away, right? So this is my statistical ranking. But my personal ranking is slightly different. Now naturally these top 5 are still there, but like CMs, because they're out of print, they cost a lot of money, so they have a 0 value. And so I would actually prefer, like, say, well actually I prefer CMs over time because of their liveries. CMs did make rally cars. CMs doesn't exist anymore, but they have all the historic rally cars, like so many cool rally cars, and they are overpriced, which means that I do give them a 0 for value, but I still love them, so I rank them number 6. Time Micro here. Diecast Masters is a recent liking for me. I just like the fact that they have extra wheels that lower the stance, so you have 2 different vehicles in one, really. It's a great deal. Mini GT is great. Kyosho blisters are great. Kyosho boxes are good, they're just overpriced. I like Yoshima's, even though they're missing a ton of details. Look at this. They only have a 30 out of 100 as far as all those details I look for. But I still rank them higher than these brands that have higher totals, because I just like those Garage-on cars. They're just so weird and crazy that I like the brand. Alright, so yeah, TLVs come in at number 13, mainly because of their value. If TLVs cost half or 1/3 as much, they would be up here in the top 5, maybe. Well, maybe not, because they're missing a lot of details, like disc brake systems, wiper blades that aren't 3-dimensional, no hollow wheels in many cases, so, and blank license plates. It's just, they need to get their act together. Alright, so that's what's going on here. So again, I challenge you guys to make your own spreadsheet, and we can all share our own opinions. And I don't expect you guys to actually agree with what I see, but you know, I explained earlier where I'm coming from. I'm used to looking at things in 1/400 scale. I'm used to looking at vehicles that'll fit inside the engine bay of a 1/64 scale car. Alright. So now, let's segue over to a couple examples of all the models that I've collected. So starting off with some examples, we have rank number 24 M2 models, of which I only have 3. So look at this hood panel gap. This literally measures over 1 millimeter long in width, right? So that means if I take that 1 millimeter gap and multiply it by 64, that hood gap would be that big in real life. There's never been a car in history to have a panel gap that big in real life. So yeah, I can see this gap from more than a meter away, and so that's what ruins it. And all for what? A dark engine bay of a pretty lame, that is a super weak engine, right? That is not worth looking at. So that's why I don't collect this brand. Their wheels are okay, but I mean, what's up with these tires? It's just, well, I don't know. The one good thing about this one is that it has plastic inserted headlights and taillights, but it also made it a relatively expensive model, so that's why their value isn't so high for me. This one again was around the same price, you know. It was in a box, but it doesn't even have an opening hood, and yet it's got a crooked giant panel gap. So that's why I don't collect this brand. It's too bad. If they could be great, but they choose to shoot themselves in the foot offering stuff like this. And I know of other people's videos with the QC. Look at this wheel. I mean, what the heck, man? It's like someone stepped on this at the factory. So the next one, I only have 3 because they're just not doing it for me, is Pao Feng, which oddly is made by Kyosho. But the main culprit for Pao Feng is these ridiculously large hood badges. I mean, I don't understand how Kyosho could let this happen. That's just so atrocious. And then on this Porsche, the lights aren't even flush. I mean, they're so recessed. And then look at this insane orange peel. So this one isn't as bad, but that thing ruins it. So when I factor in the eBay pricing on these things, they're not good. You can just get a regular Kyosho blister that won't have this ridiculousness. So that's why I don't really buy this brand so much. Okay, so coming at rank number 22 would be Norev. Now actually Norevs are pretty good. You know, I'm going to get rid of this thing. I'm not going to use it. So, they make interesting castings. I don't have too many because I don't want their normal cars because they're not advertising them as 64 scale. These are kind of close. They sit with my other 64 scales okay. And they have these, you know, Hot Wheels plastic wheels. But the great thing about the Norevs is each of these plastic wheels is cast specifically to the real car. You know, these are the real wheels from the real car. So that's what I like about Norev. And they have generally pretty decent panel lines, nice printing, and the paint is not the best, but it's still pretty good for the price. They're just not true 64, so that's why I don't buy too many of them. Okay, so the next ones are Dido, and Dido doesn't release new models, so these are all old. So the first of which is this is a typical example. This is a Dido kit. You know that because the plate was a DYT kit. So they have plastic, you know, not plastic, they have painted on taillights, so that's not the best. But they do have these really cool psychedelic headlights, which I like. And yeah, they just have a plain black interior, but I like that there's no side window, so you can see a little bit. And the wheels are specific to each vehicle, so that's nice. So they're okay. They're just all out of print, so very often they get paint bubbling and paint rash. So now a couple better examples are these Safari rally cars. So it still has painted on taillights, but it actually has a real license plate number. So the livery is actually accurate to the real car. And these wheels are accurate to the real car, they're just not passing any air between the spokes. And so again, nice no side windows, I like that. separate plastic bumpers, but I think some of them the chrome is flaked off. Here's one last example. It's a Datsun 510, and so again I like that it has the license plate, but yeah, this one's got a crooked bumper, black interior, no side window, and the psychedelic lights. Okay, so I'll continue to buy more of the Didos, at least the ones that I don't have. Sorry, that's a separate piece to cover up the bottom screw. Oh, and that's a nice thing on this Dido, at least you can unscrew it, and if you wanted to, paint that interior. Okay, coming in at number 20 in my ranking would be Schuco. So the 918 Spider, it's alright, but it's got these casted in mirrors, which for casted mirrors are not bad, but they still don't look as good as the real thing. And the wheels are not really crisply detailed. They feel kind of flat to me. So this is the better of their examples, to be honest with you. The other Schuco that's not the greatest example is the 300 SL. A 300 SL has the tires sunken beneath the fenders. This one will not. There's just a big gap. And then look at these sidewalls. These are slab-sided tires. Tires from the 50s would be far more rounded than that. So that's why I don't collect Schuco. For the price, I mean, they're just not as good as a used Kyosho. You can get a used Kyosho that has better detail than a brand new Schuco. So that's why I have very few of this Schuco brand. And I also know, like the 2002 BMW they make, it has molded in bumpers and they're just painted. So I feel that's lazy. And it has a blobby mirror, I think. So, alright, so that's Schuco, number 20. So now number 19 would be UCC Coffee. The freebies that come with some Japanese cans of coffee. So actually I'll start with this one because it's the 300 SL. And now look, you'll see this one has sunken in tires, and the tires have a little more definition, a little more roundness to them. So this free car with some coffee is better than that Schuco that sells for like 15 bucks, right? The only thing that's wrong with the UCCs is they have totally blacked out windows. There's no interior at all. But here's a more modern version, blacked out windows, but look at the wheels. They're really nice. Nice wheels, nice printing, clear headlamps. The only thing they fall down on are the painted taillights. Although those are pretty good. Alright, they're small lights, so they can get away with it. Okay, so that's UCC Coffee. Coming in at 18 is Majorette. I don't collect many Majorettes because they're not 1/64 scale. But what I do like about the brand is they actually do say what scale it is. This is 1/62. I have a caveat. I 3D printed my own wheels. So Majorette has like 2 or 3 different wheel moldings, and they're just shared across all their castings. But I can look past that. So I still like the fact that they make these really, interesting castings that no one else will. Gran Turismo car, or this concept car. Okay. So coming in at number 17 would be Granny and Partners. I only bought their Hypercar collection set. So these are long out of print. Now this is the Pagani Zonda something. I forget which one it was. Granny has major QC problems. This had no seats. It came with absolutely 0 seats in the model kit. So that's a big problem, right? Cars have seats in the real world. So that's not good for them. But this is a good example of what they did do. Nice wheels here, and there aren't any real major problems, just the lights aren't printed perfectly well. But everything else is quite nice. This engine cover actually comes off. So it's nice. I'm going to keep this, even though Mini GT is going to have a version coming out. I'm going to do a comparison whenever that model releases. Okay, so the next one is AutoWorld, coming in at number 16. So yeah, it's the hood gap and these possessed headlights. Just a stark white headlight, looks like it's possessed. But look at this. I mean, if you can't do a hood that actually closes properly, I mean, that's just atrocious, right? And again, for that, for something you can barely see, and also looks like it's made by Hot Wheels, it's just not worth looking at. So that's too bad for these guys, because I really like the subjects that they do. It's just that they're choosing to do this instead of just putting in plastic headlights and taillights. That would make the models look nice. I do like the fact that there's no side windows and some multiple color interiors. But I did have one where the entire wheel was never really put on, and so I could never fix it properly. And also, you know, the press fit bases aren't good for maintenance or customization. This one's got a lot of orange peel as well. So yeah, I don't know. I might try a few more AutoWorlds in the future, but it's not looking too good for them. I would actually prefer the next brand coming at number 15, which is Greenlight. So here's a bad example. This is one of my early Greenlight purchases. I mean, come on, man. This gap is huge on all four sides. I mean, man. And again, for this, that's not a tube. This looks like a weird worm rolling into something. It's just, this isn't a good-looking engine. It's not. It bothers me. Sorry, I'm just a repeating record now. And then I've had a lot where the graphics were scratched, brand new. But a good example, you know, is like this Mini. There's no opening feature. All the gaps look good. Sometimes they have a colorful interior. So that's why I'm going to continue buying some Greenlights, just the ones without the opening panels. So I like what they're doing. They're a pretty good value as well. You know, separate bumpers. So that's nice. And they usually have really nice looking wheels. So Greenlight is good. Konami comes in at number 14. Here's an okay example. You know, you have accurate wheels for each casting. You have separate bumpers. It's just that these things are all so old. They're usually around 2003 to 2005. So a lot of them have paint rash. A lot of them have some chrome vaporizing off the plastic. And the taillights are almost always painted plastic. But here's a much better example. This is a Publica. And look at this interior. It's white and red. And then this one actually has plastic lights front and back. And then if it matters to you guys, most of them have suspension. Not all of them, but most of them do. So I'll continue to try to get one of each casting from this brand that doesn't make any more models. Okay, so now ranking number 13 would be TLV. And if you watch my videos, I'm always ragging on this brand mainly because of their price. So, you know, if you take, like, say, a $20 model, where's the air holes in this? It's inexcusable to have such a giant gap just painted black. That should be a hollow wheel. I can forgive the lack of mirrors on these classic cars because it'll be really thin. But the blank license plate is not realistic at all. They very often have some highly distorted windows. I will give them credit. Their interiors usually have some multiple colors, so I do like those. And then the main issue is the paint rash problem, which I see from brand new ones. This one isn't too bad, but it's not perfect. Here's another example. Now this one does have open wheels and a brake system. It's one of my few. But look at the brakes on this. When's the last time you saw a caliper floating inside the surface of a rotor? That would never happen in real life. You know, that thing is supposed to be surrounding more of the rotor. So this is technically, it's a brake system, but it's not a brake system that would work in real life, right? They needed to paint that part orange as well, and so it's just kind of weird. So that's the issue there. I also feel they cheaped out. These should be plastic clear lenses, not just painted red rings, for the price of this one at least. And then this is one of the worst culprits, because this thing is so expensive, and yet it doesn't have any sort of silver or reflective sticker in the mirrors. And what's the deal with this? I mean, that's such a huge gap, it's ridiculous. And this, again, that engine is, I guess, better for TLV, but the Granian Partners cars have better engine detail than this. So it's just, for me, not worth looking at. That is not worth looking at. You know, the trade-off to have this disgusting gap, it irks me. And then a model this expensive and no brake system, and then the tire treads in this one kind of look like it's going off-road. This looks like a rally F40, not a street F40. I also don't like the fact that they're all press fit together. So if there's a problem, you're gonna have to literally, in this case, drill it 5 times. So for the price of these models, they should be screwed together so you can do some wheel swaps, because their wheels are generally pretty bad. So it's, yeah. Don't get me wrong, I'll still buy some more of these because they do a lot of cars that, you know, no one else will do. They're just a weird random Japanese castings, but they're just so overpriced. That's why I have to give them a hard time. Okay, coming in at number 12 would be Aoshima. And so these are well, technically there's going to be a new Grachan collection coming out, but they're using the same castings from the very first Grachan, like from 12 years or more than 12 years ago. So here's their major issue. They never have air passing between the spokes on the Grachan series. And the Grachan series ignores wiper blades and any sort of badge printing. There's nothing saying Nissan or Laurel on this. Right, so here's a Skyline, again, nothing saying Nissan, no badging at all. But this one's a little better because it's got a colorful roll cage, a little printing. They always have blank license plates, so that's not good either. For the Grachan series. But for their regular non-Grachan series, well, I can't say this is regular either. They will have realistic license plates. And look at these headlights, they have much better details. A little extra bit there, but the wheels are just atrocious. These might be the worst wheels in my entire collection. Horrible, horrible. Here's another Aoshima because I like the brand. This is one of their K cars, so slightly better detail here, you know, and then you will have graphic printing on the non-Grachan series, graphics on the plate, the Honda badge, all the stuff there. So these little K-Class cars that they did are quite nice. I do like these. So I'm going to continue collecting Aoshima for sure, because they do, you know, funky castings, you know, in subjects that no one else will. And their paint quality, yeah, their paint quality is really nice. I mean, this is an old model, and yet look at this thing. That thing is beautiful. Okay. Alright, so coming in number 11 would be Kyosho boxes. Crystal box Kyoshos. So, sometimes you'll get silver paint on the mirrors, and you'll get some printing on the tires or the wheels. But that's about it. Those are the only differences from other blister pack Kyoshos. So they're just kind of expensive, I think. This one wasn't too expensive, but this one was expensive. This came in a crystal box. This one has no additional silver paint. And then the interior has no additional color. So I don't know what happened there. You know, I don't understand why this cost as much as it did, because it has all the features of a regular Kyosho blister pack. So that's why Kyosho crystal boxes are not a good value. They're still good looking models, they're just overpriced. Here is, I think, another crystal box, but from the old Beads collection. The Beads collection are still okay. I mean, look at the additional color on this one. There's no side windows, so it's great. Printing on the license plate, right? So this is actually a pretty nice model, but it's not, this is out of print now. So the crystal boxes, out of print ones seem to be better than the brand new ones. They're kind of cheaping out on the new ones. Okay, so the bulk of my collection would be the Kyosho blister packs, where I have over 230 of them. You want to avoid the early collections. This is from either Ferrari collection number 1 or 2, and it's got oversized badges. The paint's actually decent, although yellow paint always fills it in. But they have these old weird wheels where you have these chrome pieces go into a plastic piece and is trapped by the tire. So it's just not as good as their later releases. These wheels don't look so good. The casting doesn't look so good. I mean, look at these mirrors. They were learning at this period. You know, they didn't have their act together quite. There's just this. There's no like indication of the taillight, and they just have black, blanked off exhaust tips. So not the best example. But the later collections, yeah, they learned. I mean, look at the detail on this guy. It's got 6 pieces of plastic for all these lights, multiple colors. The tampo printing. Most Kyosho's have tampo printing. Very few, like the F1 cars, might have decals. So this printing will stay good forever because it's literally paint and not a decal. You know, and these extra details are just great. I mean, this one still has, you know, tiny black exhaust tips, but the wheels are always accurate to the real vehicle, and it seems like their treads are different for every model that they make, which is nice. This is actually still one of their older ones because it's press fit together. The newer ones are all screwed together. But I have plenty of videos on Kyosho's, so you can see them if you search by channel. Okay, so coming in at number 9 in the ranking, we get Mini GT. So their earlier castings like this, it's not a major issue, but it is noticeable. This panel gap. These panel gaps are like wider than a lot of Hot Wheels. So I think they did that because they thought, you know, if they're going to have white or yellow paint, they're going to need to fill it in more to cover up the casting. But it's definitely, you know, noticeable. But other than that, there's nothing wrong with these guys. I mean, sure, it'd be nice to have some silver in here, but for the price, I don't really expect silver paint in the mirrors. I think they're really great. I like the fact that they're screwed together, so you can do wheel swaps or maintenance, you know. It's great. And that's not their best example, so there are even more recent ones. I mean, this thing, it's got the little photo etch metal emblem. And then this interior is pretty nice, you know, you got the roll cage in there, a different color. Still the screwed base and all that stuff. And then again, tampo printing, so it's going to look nice for the foreseeable future, unless it gets paint rash. So yeah, Mini GT is up there, that's why it's in my top 10. Alright, coming in at number 8 would be BM Creations / Diecast Masters. I don't really know what the brand is called because I see both of them on the boxes sometimes. So, at first I thought the steering was a gimmick, but I've grown to appreciate it because the second set of wheel sets make it look like a drift car. And so a drift car is drifting with turned wheels. Pretty thin defroster lines, you know, all the details of the license plate, the plastic lights. Not the best depressions on the muffler tips there. But this one actually has a metal grill, which is quite amazing. There's a metal grill here and then an intercooler piece behind it. So, and then they have a little silver paint here. I don't really care about the bottom too much. But you can see that the wheels have camber to them. The original stock wheels it comes with in the case are the original factory wheels, and it has a much higher riding stance. So you can get a stock, bone stock, and this JDM slammed look, all from the same package, so it's nice. Here's another one. This one is, I guess, officially a Diecast Masters. And again, I put the aftermarket wheel set on, so it's slammed, it steers, and it's good. I'm going to continue buying this brand for sure. I kind of like the gimmick. They suckered me, they got me. But the castings are good. If you look at this review, I mean, this looks like the photograph, so it's a great job. Okay. Coming in at number 7 would be Time Micro or Time Model. I think the earlier ones might have been Time Model, and the newer ones are Time Micro. So I'm going to start with the bad example. So, from this side, this car is nice. But QC is a big problem with this brand. Look at this giant, disgusting paint thing. And then if you watch my video, there's a lot of black paint missing. I actually had to go and add it myself. But for the price, they do have a lot of good details. You got a colorful interior, you know, nice plastic lights. You got real license plates, right? A decent exhaust tip, a brake system, a basic brake system, no rotor or anything. No, I'm sorry, no caliper, no brake caliper clamping that thing. So that's the worst example. But it does have real reflective stickers, right? So you can't get better than that, because it literally reflects stuff. So a better example might be this Cullinan rolls here. I mean, the interior of this thing, it's multiple colors and printing. Like, look at the center there. It's got black and silver buttons and dials and stuff like that. The defroster lines aren't super thick. You can see the interior, and then, you know, obviously the outside's got all a bunch of different printing and colors and little details here and there. So it's good. This is a decent model. It's just that some of them have some quality problems. My purple Rolls Royce from these guys has a lot of contaminants. This one, I don't know what's going on there, you know, it's casting or paint problems. So it's best to try to buy this brand in person. Buying online, you're playing roulette. There's a good chance it's going to have paint or QC problems. One of the best examples from this brand is this Porsche. Now the printing on this is just, it's over the top. I mean, it's multiple colors, and it literally wraps around the body, and it actually goes into the crevices of the panel gaps. So this is one of the best paint jobs I've seen in this scale, right? See, the red rose is going in there. So that's why I like him. Unfortunately, this one just has a black interior, so not the best detail, but separate pieces for antennas, I mean not antennas, separate wiper blades, photo etched there. This one's got a little separate tow hook as well. So you get some of those resin details, but you get them at a you know, Inno 64 pricing. Okay. So the next one is CM's models. Now CM's is long out of business. So, but when they were an active company, they definitely did it right in many cases. All these graphics are tampo printed. They're not going to crack off. They have antennas that you add, and then look at this. There's literally 8 pieces of plastic here. Most companies today are just going to have these painted due to cost and laziness. But CM's, if that thing had 8 pieces of glass in the front, they'll do it. So it's pretty impressive. Here's another example. Alright. This one's got some relatively thin plastic mud guards. And, you know, there's a roll cage in there. I think sometimes they have seat belts, and you can kind of see there. But yeah, it's just all the extra printing, the livery. They did a good job. So, unfortunately, because they are long out of production, these are expensive models nowadays. But even with the expensive price, I think they stand up well to this test of time, at least until some new brand takes it on. So I'll keep these until someone makes a better version. But some of the castings are so random, like that first model I showed you, that I don't think anyone will do them again. Okay, so Tarmac Hobby, which is obviously an active brand. Their early releases were questionable, but this is not an early release. So look at this. I mean, again, 8 pieces of plastic, headlights, and then 6 auxiliary lamps with plastic inserts. An antenna, 2 antennas, this little whatever, satellite dome or something, this little box. So a lot of additional pieces going on. Thin mud flaps, roll cage, there's going to be seat belts in there, a real license plate, dimensional exhaust tips, instrument, look at the instrument gauges, right? The only thing that they don't do 100% perfect is they always paint the silver on the mirrors. It's not a reflective sticker. But I mean, look at all the colors in there. Blue, there's red, silver, there's black, there's gauges. So these guys do almost everything you would expect to see on a real car. So I'll definitely continue to buy Tarmac Works. The only reason why I don't have many is the choices that they choose. Like, I like this car, but most of the other ones, most of their other castings aren't high on their list of priorities for me to buy. If they, you know, hopefully they'll just do other castings that I end up liking. I know the quality is there. It's just that I don't like the cars that they're choosing to make models of. So, yeah, the quality's there. Okay, so coming in at number 4 is Biante. Now, I don't think Biante makes models that are new anymore, so these are old and they're expensive, and the fact that they come from Australia, the shipping really kills you. On eBay, the actual price of the model is in line with other ones. It's the shipping cost that ruins it for, you know, other people. But I don't know when this thing was originally made, but these guys have a lot of great details. I mean, they have separate exhaust systems. Look at these tires. I mean, they have nice curvature, nice printing. The mirror here, it's a nice thin separate piece, and then it also has, you know, silver paint in there. This one is just a black, well, there's a brown steering wheel. So let me show you this one. Look at this interior. It's got a different seat, 2 different seats of 2 different colors. Hopefully you can, maybe you can't see. You'll see videos on all these cars later if I haven't done videos of them yet. This is a separate hood bonnet. Mesh wheels, yeah, you can't have hollowness, but at least they got the 5 lug nuts in the center there. Again, printing on the tires, good curvature to the tire from this era. Separate exhaust with dimensionality in color. I mean, these guys are doing it. Even though these are painted taillights, but they're well done. These headlights, you can actually see there's 2 headlights and a turn signal behind this headlight cover. So that's a lot of pieces, a lot of detail for a headlight. So Biante is awesome. I only wish that they sold their cars globally, and I wish they made more castings. So it's too bad. They're just rare outside of Australia, and that's a faraway land. Okay, let's get these out. So now we're getting to the top 3. Inno64 would be my 3rd favorite brand right now. Well, actually, it's my 2nd favorite brand because resin models aren't one brand. So yeah, I did a video on this. The highlight of this one, there's 2 highlights. These tiny fender mirrors. This is the kind of mirror that belongs in all those TLV models. So Inno can do it. TLV chooses to not do it because they probably think they're going to break off, which is a valid concern, but if you put it in a box, it shouldn't break off. And also, Inno always uses reflective stickers, so it can't really get more realistic than that. This one happens to have what looks like separate wiper blades. They look like metal. They look nice. And this one also came with a second wheel set. So and then you have a colorful interior and 3D exhaust. There's actually, well, there's air passing between those spokes. So really great details. Alright, so that's one example. Here's another example. I brought this one out because there's super thin defroster lines. Right, so you can see through it. It's got a hanging rear view mirror there. But the main highlight of this one is look at these well, I don't know if they're turn signals. These little lights here are separate plastic inserts. Most other brands would definitely have paint there, but Inno will put a piece of plastic where it belongs. And this is like a foil sticker badge. It's actually 3-dimensional, it's not a tampo print. And then the wheels, the tires have printing on them. So that's another great example from them. I have 2 more from Inno because I love this brand so much. In this case, this Evo 3, I guess the real rally car had silverized film to block out the heat in the Rally New Zealand, is it? Yeah. So that's something I haven't seen before. It's got separate antenna, this little air box. Look at that seat, you know, harness, the white roll cage in there. The instrument cluster is going to have something, but we can't, you can kind of see it there. So there are gauges in the cluster. Look at these thin fenders, 3D exhaust tip, real license plate number, printing on the wheels, printing on the tires. So really great example. Oh my, I didn't even notice this in my review. This is a piece of metal, photo etched metal, and there's an intercooler behind it. Wow. So that is just, this is like nearing resin quality. The only thing that doesn't make it resin are the molded windows, but they sure have a lot of details on them. So, again, let me pull out one more example, because Innos aren't super expensive, and yet some of them will actually come with second wheel sets if they don't have all the crazy race livery. So there's such a good value that I would definitely continue buying them, and they do more subjects that I like versus tarmac. So this one here, again, we got the fenders, we got a separate and painted exhaust tip, we have photo etched tow hooks there, we have some additional printing on the windows, as well as look at that interior. The dashboard has all sorts of buttons and switches in a different color. The reflective mirror, right, it literally reflects the pic here. Real license plate number, some obviously plastic inserted headlights front and rear. So separate again, metal wiper blades. So this is minus the windows. This is pretty much a resin model. I mean, there is a brake system back there. There's printing on the tires. I mean, and printing on the wheel. It's awesome. I guess the fault of this one is I think this might be a decal, this whole graphic, because you can see the wrinkliness. So sometimes they have decals, sometimes it's tampos, sometimes it seems to be a combination of them. Okay, so that's the last of Inno. Inno is definitely up there. My second brand that's not a resin. Okay, so my first brand that's not a resin, or second overall, would be LCD model. So Seismic 64 is the user that told me about this brand, so thank you again, because these guys are awesome. This model was like, I think 15 or 16 bucks from Small Ants Model, and this thing is just amazingly good. I don't even like this car that much. I think this McLaren is kind of ugly, but the details on this model are just nuts. You want to probably watch the video on this one. Brake system, nice looking wheels. The carbon fiber here, it's got a clear coat over it. This roof has a molded in carbon texture. A license plate graphic. Real reflective stickers. I think, yeah, it's there. Right, you can see the reflective of the blue fender, right? So this is a good one. This is the first one I got from LCD, and so I've continued to buy more. And a relatively recent video would be this Pagani BC. So from this distance, it just looks like a black center of the car, right? But once you start zooming in, you can see the carbon weave, right? And then the carbon weave is clear coated. So that's as realistic as it gets for a wet carbon layup. And then, tampo printing here, not just this number, or maybe it's painted somehow, I don't know, but this wing's got white and red on it, white and red on these little wing tips, the stripe. And then look at the interior, multiple colors, multiple textures. And then this one happens to have a real reflector for the rear view. So it's just, I love this brand. That's why they're number 2 or the number 1 that are not resin models. They definitely deserve it. The only problem with these guys, they don't make enough models. I wish these guys made everything. I would buy all of them for sure. Okay, so that's their one downfall. I think they must be relatively new, and they're putting out new ones, but I really wish they made more, because I would definitely add them. Okay, so now we'll get into my very favorite, which is pretty logical, is the resin models. Resin models are expensive to very expensive. This one actually I highly recommend to everyone to buy. This Jag E-Type I think was somewhere around 40 bucks. And this thing is almost perfect. The only thing that's not perfect on this is there should be silver on the door handles. But this thing has the most insane taillights out there. This taillight consists of 3 tiny pieces of plastic put into this chrome piece. Right? That's 4 pieces to make one taillight. This interior, I think those are metal strips for the luggage rubs. This is the multiple piece window I was talking about. So this clear piece of plastic has a blackout printed on it. Then they glued on a photo etched piece of stainless on top of that to represent the chrome of a real classic car. The windows also so clear. I've literally taken this thing and put it up in front of a TV, and I could watch television through these windows. These windshield wiper blades are photo etched metal, and hopefully you can tell they are bent 90 degrees, so they're perpendicular to the windshield. This one happens to have photo etched wire wheel spokes, so the air is actually passing between the spokes like a real wire wheel. Right? A separate chrome exhaust with depressions, and look how small it is. It's as small as the tip of a dental pick. So yeah, I would say this is the best resin bargain you can buy, or that I bought, so far. There's a little rear view mirror, there's chrome plastic and stuff. I mean, it's just, this model has almost everything. It's just that those door handles were not painted silver, or ideally they would be separate chrome pieces of plastic. But this was a cheaper of the resin models, so it's super impressive. Unfortunately, I think it was JEC that made this one. It might be JEC. Look that up. JEC Jaguar. Okay. So the very finest model I have in my collection, which rightfully it should be because it's the most expensive one, is by MR Collection, and it's the Terzo Millennio. Now this isn't even a real car, but there's a lot of work going into this one. I've now come to realize these are photo etched pieces, I think, these little veins. Look at these wheels. I mean, I don't know what's going on there. There's like a lot of pieces going on in that wheel. Tiny tow hooks. I've taken a flashlight to this in my review, but there's a real photo etched seat buckle, belt buckle in there, holding those little straps. And some crazy honeycomb pattern. Look at this thin sheet plastic here for these vent louvers. I mean, that's like packaging plastic. These are thin, tiny pieces of clear, translucent red taillights. Look how hard would it be to glue that on? And then in my first review, I didn't realize these are photo etched pieces of metal bent and glued onto a black piece of plastic. It's so reflective, my camera can't deal with it, but I thought it was just a silver paint at first. But no, that's actually a piece of metal glued onto that plastic. This logo here is a decal, I think, which generally I would not like, but that decal is underneath the clear coat. So that decal can't crack or fall off because the clear coat is protecting it, right? I also didn't realize in my first review, look at this carbon. It's clear coated. It feels smooth. Yeah, but that looks like carbon. There's literally air passing between all these openings. You see right there? You can see my finger through that brake vent area. Although it's not, I don't know if it's a brake vent area because it's supposed to have motors in the hubs, but from the back view, again, look at, there's also sort of create the drive shafts or whatever, the suspension arms, they're actually in there. You just, insane. There's a full belly pan down there. So, yeah, it's an expensive model, but you show me a better model. I don't think it exists. Besides all those technical details and the shape of this thing, it's this paint job. This particular paint job is the best paint job I've ever seen in any sort of scale model. It's like it looks like a squid, with bioluminescence. It's such a crazy photochromic purple, gold, and unfortunately because of the LEDs are so bright, it doesn't do a good job of showing it, but in darker light this thing almost glows. So the paint job alone is just worth so much. and it's smooth. You know, I think it was hand polished after it was clear coated, so there's no orange peel that I can see. Insane. Look at the shifting of that color. Okay, but yeah, this is it should be the best because it is the most expensive one I've seen in a while. Only the Ignition Skyline comes close in the price for this, which I won't buy. I already have enough Skylines, I think. So anyways, okay, so that's a long video, but I just saved you 7 months of collecting if you're new to this hobby. I entered this hobby because of COVID, and I'm glad I did. It's really been fun, you know, talking with you guys. I don't really respond to everyone's messages, so I apologize for that. I do actually work and stuff and have other things to do. And but hey, if you can go out and maybe try some of these other brands I recommend, you know, why not? You know, buy 1 or 2 of each of them and then decide for yourself if you think, you know, they should enter your collection. You won't know if you don't try, right? Okay, so yeah, if anyone's up for the challenge, you know, you don't have to go into the crazy detail I did. I'm a very detail-oriented person, if in case you haven't noticed. But it would be nice to see other people's opinions, what's important to them, and then how they rank that importance across the brands, right? Because you may not agree with me, but I'm sure there's other people that will agree with you, right? Okay, well, as always, thank you for watching, and we'll continue this journey together. Thanks.